So, welcome to another edition of the Keep Africa Trading podcast from TradeMark Africa. My name is Moses Kemibara and I'm your host. Our next guest is the man who has been behind organizing this particular conference where we are in Kigali, Rwanda. This is the Africa Trade Development Forum happening on the 2nd and 3rd of December. We are now on the last legs of this event. And Erick really has been instrumental and pivotal behind setting up this particular event where the focus has been on digital trade. And I think I want to talk to him and understand the origins of the conference, why it came together, and hopefully why it is so critical at this moment in time in addressing some of maybe the questions and opportunities around digital trade within Africa. So thank you so much for joining us, Erick.
Thank you.
So Erick, maybe you can introduce yourself and what it is that you do at TradeMark.
Yeah, so my name is Erick Sirali. I lead the digital trade pillar. In TradeMark Africa, we have 6 critical pillars of how we deliver our programming. We have one on physical infrastructure. We have another one on trade policy. We have another one on quality of goods and standards. We have another one on green and green trade. The other one that we have is on inclusive trade, that is on women, gender, and youth. And the last one, and the 6th one, is the digital. So I lead the digital pillar, and I am the digital trade director.
What does that entail exactly in terms of when you talk about that pillar? What does it mean within the context of TradeMark?
Within TradeMark, the digital trade pillar is one that is viewed in 3 ways. One is we look at digital technologies as that which enables trade to happen. So when we are designing and co-creating projects and programs, we always try and see, do we need digital tech in delivering this project or this program? And do we need it from a point of it being an enabler? So all our work, you'll always find an angle that has a digital component. The same way that when you're designing programs, you have to also ensure there's adequate inclusion for women, or it's designed in a sustainable way that it doesn't harm the environment. So in the same context, we also have to think about, we have a lot of digital tech today. How are we taking advantage of it? So first, as an enabler. Secondly, as that which transforms trade. Because if you think about trade, you can still power trade with technology. So for instance, applying for a trade document electronically, it being processed, being approved, and then you get it. Basically what you've done, you've just kind of digitized the legacy process. But now if you think about transforming it, you start thinking about now, okay, there were 8 steps and most of them were because these were papers moving between actors. The risks were higher. Now we've removed so much of the paper. Do we really need to still have 8 steps? If you shrink them now back to maybe 2 or 3 steps, now you talk about transforming how that trade works. So we look at digital trade as a transformation tool. And thirdly, we also look at digital trade as a catalyst for new opportunities. And I'll give you a few examples. And I know you're a guru in this space. If you build an e-commerce platform today, that mama or that lady in that locality that has struggled to sell their ware, they now have a better way or a platform where they can be able to bring their commodities to a bigger market that ideally they wouldn't have. So you're catalyzing new trade purely because of tech, something that ideally will not happen. So we see tech or digital technologies in those 3 dimensions. So in our programming, we'll always try and see, is this an intervention that is more inclined towards enabling, transforming, or catalyzing trade, or even 2 or 3 of those dimensions?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that you see digital almost as a cross-cutting thing. And then the question becomes, to what extent or to what use case are you putting it into play? Sometimes in multiple dimensions across the same thing, correct?
Exactly.
Wow, that's fantastic. So presumably across all your programs, is this element of how digital is it, or how much digital enablement or transformation has been applied as a result of what this pillar provides?
Exactly. So, and you're right, just like many other development initiatives, we have interventions that are very specific in terms of they're targeted, They are heavily tech initiatives, and therefore they most likely will be transformative or catalyzing in nature. But there are those that you will do them to mainstream other pieces of work. And I'll give maybe one or two examples. We have worked with the bureaus of standards in many of the East African countries. And my colleagues who do quality and standards will be able to support them to acquire equipment for testing of goods, either that are produced locally or they're imported. And then you'll have my colleagues from the policy side who will then look at the touch points for trade policy around trades that go through that machine. Assuming whether it is coffee, tea, I don't know, pampers, diapers for babies or any sort of commodities. So they look at the trade angle. And then for us on the digital side, we'll see then how do we power that service. If a trader has sent a sample to the Bureau of Standards, it has to go through the testing, it has to the test has to be processed and verified, and then a certificate will be issued or a license or a permit. And therefore, for us, we'll now enable that process to operate in a digital way. So that's how the synergies operate. It's either mainstreamed or targeted.
So the theme of the conference is digital trade, and I believe you're one of the key architects behind it. Why now? Why here are we talking about digital trade?
No, I think the conversation for digital trade has previously been viewed as technology has been viewed as that thing that you do other things, then it comes somewhere in the conversation
As an add-on.
Exactly, to solve the problems. So, but the way we look at it in TradeMark is sometimes we start with the digital. That really, can we solve this trade problem with digital as a digital first mindset? And the timing that we have now is paramount because there's a lot of conversations from different corners. Even the terminology digital trade previously was purely viewed as an e-commerce terminology. But OECD, WTO, UNCTAD, and many other thought leaders have broadened the terminology and the thinking around digital trade. And the continent also has matured to that level that they are looking at trade or digital trade in a much more richer fashion. And one good example is the Africa Free Continental Trade Area Digital Trade Protocol. That has many pillars that are very centric to trade. Pillars such as cross-border data flows, e-commerce, data security, data governance.
It's a complete framework.
It's a complete framework. So the timing is right. The AfCFTA Digital Trade Protocol was actually adopted by the member states in February of this year, 2024. And therefore, the way we look at trade, we should also have a space that we also think about digital trade in a much broader way. So we feel the timing is right. And also, there's a lot of emerging tech. I think AI is the buzzword now. People are getting to understand and appreciate AI. We have had very good trials, and now we are moving into implementation on the use of distributed ledger. So we feel the timing is right. And therefore, in this initiative that TradeMark has done before, the Africa Trade Development Forum, we thought that this year's theme needs to be aligned to the digital conversation. Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, obviously, in the last 2 days, we have seen a lot of conversations, and it seems to me that in almost each and every one of them, there's something digital mentioned, in spite of the fact that this is a digital trade event. But are there any key takeaways or insights from your point of view that you found possibly eye-opening, maybe to some extent inspiring, maybe super relevant for our audience? Are there any things that you can take away that maybe the audience will feel correlate to the fact that this is a digital trade event?
Yeah, two things. One on a light note and one on the other side. On the light note is from the side conversations I had with some of the guys who met in the corridors attending the event. We've had quite a bit of well-profiled individuals. And one of them was saying, Eric, when you invited us to this event, I didn't anticipate that you will be able to fill 2 days and probably close to 12 panels and have enough content to to keep people engaged on digital trade. They believe was that by the time you finish maybe 2-3 panels, you're done with tech. And so my point here is there's so much to speak about digital technologies in the in the space of trade. So that's on a light note. But what really captured my attention is the term "no stop border" has really come out in most conversations, and I think it's something very phenomenal. We might not understand what it means, but it's so phenomenal. Now, today, TradeMark has invested in quite a number of cross-border interventions, and the biggest is the one-stop border posts. Many people know TradeMark because of one-stop border posts. We've invested in so many across East Africa. Now, over time, the cargo is growing. The cargo is growing. The populations across the region is increasing. The demand for goods and services is increasing, but you only have specific trade corridors. They're not growing at the same pace. The border points are the same. They're not growing at the same pace. You can't split them so much. You can only split them so far. And therefore, however much you invest on this point called a physical border, gets to a point you can, however much you invest on it, it just can't serve the purpose. And we are almost hitting that point as a region. Because I think in 2012, 2013, when we started actively developing some of the border posts across East Africa. So for instance, in moving goods between Mombasa and Kampala, or Mombasa and Kigali, it used to take about 12 days. We're able to shrink that to about 4 days by around 2018, 2019, thereabout. Now, because the volumes of cargo is increasing, the pressure on the physical infrastructure is so high, we're starting to see some of those gains being depleted.
It's building up again.
Exactly. So we have to rethink how we actually are going to ensure that this continuous flow. And the thing that has come to our mind now, and TradeMark is taking it very seriously, is probably we have to rethink these borders again. And that's why there's a lot of conversation of no-stop borders. In TradeMark, we call them borders 2.0. We also think about what will it be to have a smart corridor. So you can imagine that space where you can drive from Mombasa to Kisangani and not stop at any border. So that is the vision that I'm hearing coming out of this conference, with especially most of the high-level panels, where there's a lot of inspiration to try and challenge the continent on taking and moving us forward to the next level.
Yeah. Fantastic. And going forward, when it comes to looking at how these conferences will evolve and specifically focusing in on digital trade, where do you see this going?
Yeah. So what I foresee happening into the future is that we should be able to have a much deeper region that is heavily powered by tech. Even as we pursue the no-stop borders into the future, there are still some leaps that we can make by slightly improving or enhancing the technologies that we've implemented. So we have so many government agencies that there's still a lot of opportunity for doing business process optimization, further shrink how their processes are structured. There are places where some trade actors really don't need to be there. Other trade actors can act on their behalf, and technology can give them the confidence that they need, that actually whatever they are been mandated to do anywhere on the supply chain, that if another actor is able to verify 1, 2, 3 things, then you can be able to act based on that framework that you have with other actors. So I feel where we are and where we're going with digital tech, there's a lot of opportunity for us to further refine how trade operates. And as I also think about into the future, emerging tech remains paramount. We, as in TradeMark, we've been running an initiative called Trade Logistics Information Pipeline, for smoothening how origins and destination markets are able to communicate directly. If you're moving consignments from India, consignments of drugs into Kenya, or you're moving fresh produce out of Kilimanjaro and sending them to Europe, that you have a way for the origin side and the destination side to communicate directly, so that then you're able to support the exports or imports. So for example, if you're sending fresh produce, fresh flowers from Naivasha in Kenya, and you're sending them to Amsterdam in Netherlands, and you're able to ensure that by the time you pluck that flower, or you have the flower stock put together, and you have the first set of documents, they've been put on a distributed ledger, and the destination market start seeing information sets about that consignment. Goes through the airport, you have information. By the time the plane takes off, you have a full batch of documentation around it, including customs documents and many other regulators. So that's the kind of initiative that you're doing on the distributed ledger. And then on AI, I think during the conference, there was a very interesting demonstration for how AI can be able to support customs in verifying and ensuring there are better ways to deal with with fraud and smuggling. And we think we are at that point where emerging tech and digital trade are getting converged. And if without beating it too much, we also have IoT and the sensors that can be put on supply chain. There's an initiative that we are running with, funded by the European Union, that is meant to help move or reduce the fresh produce that go via air into the sea. And it takes much longer. If you're moving avocado or fresh produce via sea, it will take maybe 3 to 4 weeks. But air, it will take about 8 hours or 9 hours. But there's a lot of carbon footprint that comes with flying it via air. And we think if you're able to have a value chain that is on the sea freight that is powered by a lot of IoT sensors, you can be able to support the value chain actors to appreciate that, yes, my fresh produce has remained in good condition all through. You have temperature sensors, you have humidity sensors, and all these sensors collecting information along the supply chain, and you can be able to track it live up to the time it hits the shelves in Europe.
Great
So there's a
stuff.
lot of opportunities looking forward.
So as we come to the end of our conversation, Eric, are there any things that you'd want the audience to know, maybe again from the digital trade perspective, and what it is that you do at TradeMark?
Yeah, we do a lot of work. We have 4 key areas that we focus in. One is the classical, what we call most people refer to them as digital economies, or powering the economy with basic technology, right from how you are able to do an application for any service and get it, to the second area where we focus, which is mostly around cross-border data flows. So how do you ensure that actors who are operating in a regional framework, whether it is between 2 countries, multiple countries, have a way of sharing information? So we have those regional initiatives as a second cluster or groups. And we have a third cluster where we have what we call trade information. So you also think, how do you make information available to actors? And in the forum, there's a lot of mention of iSOCO platform that we have worked with the chambers in East Africa that supports making information available. We've also worked in Rwanda and other places, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, where we've supported the government to establish the national information trade platforms. So that is the third one. How do you make information available? And the last one is around digital policy. So the work that we are doing with the AfCFTA on the Africa Free Continental, on the Digital Trade Protocol, as well as some of the work that you're planning to do on data and data governance. So those 4 key areas are some of the things that we do across TradeMark. We work in, of course, we are fully established in 14 countries, but we work up to, I think now we are hitting 17.
Wow.
Yeah, we started in East, we went to the Horn of Africa, we went South, now we are in the West Africa, and we have digital projects across all these countries. When we started in 2011, we were operating in a few countries, but at this point, we've managed to hit slightly more than 100 digital projects across these countries.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yes, over 3 phases that TradeMark has been running.
So digital is very much at the core of what TradeMark does.
Exactly. Because I think for the what we call strategy 1, which ran from 2011 to I think around 2017, and then they're about to 2023, 23, when the second strategy ended. For that period, I think we had slightly over 120 million worth of digital projects across all these countries. So digital is really at the heart of the work that we do in TradeMark.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for sharing. We're really grateful that you're able to give us all these insights around the digital aspects of what TradeMark is doing. Also, thank you for organizing this incredible conference, which we've all enjoyed. And more importantly, we're looking forward to seeing what other things TradeMark is going to do from a digital perspective.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there you have it, Erick Sirali, driving digital matters at TradeMark Africa. My name is Moses Kemibara. I've been your host here today on Keep Africa Trading. And more importantly, it's so wonderful to see how TradeMark is leveraging digital across the board to enhance trade throughout the African continent. We hope we can catch you in the next one.